Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to film an impromptu video about the full moon in Pisces on August 30th, 2023. I just wanted to come on really quickly and channel in some information for you all about this moon as I'm feeling it very strongly. I'm just recording on my smartphone today, so maybe it's the audio quality could be a little bit average like that. But yes, let's talk a little bit about the full moon in Pisces. Okay, so the end of August is the end of a chapter for a lot of people. Not just a chapter, it's really the end of a cycle of self-sabotage, self-destruction. This full moon in Pisces is very significant because we have the first full moon in Pisces since Saturn moved into Pisces. And of course, we have Neptune so advanced in Pisces. I will link my videos below on Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. Right now we have Saturn retrograde, and it's retrograded really far back, close to the cusp of Pisces and Aquarius. And this full moon in Pisces is going to activate our consciousness in a way that will sort of begin the completion phase or reveal to us, right? Full moons are always revealing. They are illuminating. They are clarifying. At an emotional level, it's going to be clarifying the emotional significance of this Saturn transit through Pisces. So there's a lot of information to get here, you all, around this, really this time of about August 25th until about September 5th, 2023. And for this larger, greater lunar cycle, we have a total kind of like funereal energy here. Okay, just to put it quite bluntly, the sign of Pisces, it's the final sign of the zodiac, having Saturn, both the material planet in the zodiac, and then Neptune, the sort of metaphysical and emotional planet in the solar system, both in Pisces with the full moon there. It's almost like a material representation of conclusion. And it's almost hard to articulate, but I want you guys, if you can, to really hold space for what needs conclusion in your life. What a great moon for shadow work, okay? What a great moon for finishing things out. If you wanted to give yourself a bit of a deadline on coming to a conclusion about how you feel, for example, about a past relationship, a previous difficult breakup, a death in the family, a graduation, a conclusion, anything in life, these like big life things that happen which indicate or represent some type of ending or change, are going to come to some type of sensible conclusion with this full moon in Pisces. And one of the reasons I felt that I needed to come on and really talk about this is because I think that there are a lot of people who are kind of like grinding or kind of like withholding from themselves the actual relief, for example, of a breakup, the possibility that certain endings always introduce. And this full moon in Pisces on August 30th is going to illuminate the opportunities of ending. But in order for that to happen, in order for our minds to be on that and to perceive of that, we have to give ourselves some type of conclusion. So, at a even more mundane level, this full moon in Pisces of 2023, I see it as a certain cusp for many, many people of basically being a lot of their time going to unconscious energy output and more conscious energy output. That's really the ultimate way that we can channel this energy and really get ahead of the Saturn in Pisces that we're going to be having until 2026, is getting conscious with the way that we're channeling energy and making sure that we're not via trauma or via unrequited, unreconciled pain or difficulty, kind of unconsciously making all the decisions in our life. That's where a lot of the chaos that we have right now globally, economically, and very personally is resulting from, is from this like trauma and all of this pain that has not been concluded on and is being re-expressed outwards into real material structures. That's like Saturn in Pisces, is the expression or the structural creation via trauma or pain body. And as you guys know, that's not going to be sustainable. Like whatever is created through trauma or pain, while certainly artistically significant works can be created that resonate with people, that's not so much what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is people who build through their anti-purpose. Anti-purpose is a theme that I talked about in a video called Finding Purpose and Motivation in the Birth Chart, which is basically this thing that humans get where they go through pain or difficulty and it generates this kind of like compelling purpose that wasn't there before. We're going to be seeing a lot of reconciliation of anti-purpose during this full moon in Pisces, and it's going to connect to the new moon in Virgo in September, where we start to implement a totally new routine. Now, I've already talked in the 12 September general readings, which are on Patreon, I'll link that below, about the way that the new moon in Virgo, September of 2023, is a completely materially different way of perceiving momentum, perceiving the scale of order in your life, and sort of like reorienting the way that you're sequencing events in your life. One of the main keywords for September was sequencing. So putting together a sequence of events, kind of like a chronology of ways that we're moving forward. So how does that relate to this full moon in Pisces? Well, without the proper conclusions, without letting yourself breathe, letting yourself be okay, letting yourself experience healing, without that, the sequencing is going to be totally off, or it's going to be more burdensome, because people are going to be acting through this like anti-purpose theme. People are going to be acting through their pain. And to an extent, the entire transit of Saturn in Pisces 2023 to 2026 deals with the materialization of pain, the way in which trauma expresses itself in a touchable, tangible way. But here during the end of August 2023, we have such a good opportunity to get clear on how we feel about some of these matters of pain body, past regression. Also, is there a way in which you can show yourself that to go through these continued pains or to go through these continued trauma responses is maybe beneath you? Is there a way in which you can absolve yourself of your loyalty to past pain? Is a question that I think is important during this full moon in Pisces, because you can get so much out of the way. You can remove so many obstacles from your path over these next few years if during this time you can really conclude on things in the simplest way possible. So breakups. Is there a way in which like your youth or your previous self doesn't need to continually be held responsible for that? Is there a way in which you can absolve yourself from it? Is there a way in which you can forgive yourself for what's happened? Also, personal wrongdoing could be coming up. There could be like feelings of guilt, or there could be this feeling of like, why haven't I done better? Why haven't I saved more money? Why haven't I been better in relationships? And this is interesting too. This is another side of this full moon in Pisces. And this is going to stay with us for like the next 3 years, depending on what we're working on here, depending on how strong this is. Because this is the first full moon in Pisces, right? During the Saturn in Pisces. So we have the first full lunar activation of this Saturn transit. It's a very significant full moon. What we're choosing here is the degree to which we bring with us the previous pain or trauma body, and without some type of personal self-forgiveness, it's just going to be like kind of cloying and kind of like constantly a part of what we're dealing with, and it gets heavy, right? It's like weighing people down. And people will just be very, very connected during this time to what they do wrong. So for people who are kind of awakened, or for people, a lot of people on this channel who can process that, that's not so bad. And I encourage you during this time to journal and process and do your shadow work with that. But for more unconscious people, which you guys, I've got to tell you, we're going the opposite direction. Right now, when it comes to global awakening and global consciousness, things got kind of interesting there. There was a nice expansion from like the 2016 to 2019 time. People were kind of like really getting interested in figuring out their shadow. They were really getting interested in like, in sort of waking up to greater truths and sort of like getting out of the rat race and stuff. But I felt ever since 2020 came in, it re-empowered the sort of structural systemic status quo, and it made actually people start to fall back asleep, and it created a greater sort of like zombie consciousness situation. So here in 2023, it's kind of gone backwards, and then Saturn in Pisces is going to come through and really give people a lot of obstacles relating to how awake or how not awake they are in the most personal sense in their life, and then also kind of like at a macro collective level. So my point with that is like the interpretation of this transit depends on how awake you are. If you're like doing pretty well, this is kind of like a soothing moon that will introduce to you a few ways in which you can even further reinvigorate, even further refresh the path that you're on, and even expand even further, or perhaps make more even aesthetically relevant, more significant through both at an emotional and body level context. So what that means is like perhaps styles that work better for you, more like finding a style that's even better, finding also a group of people or new friends that are like more emotionally harmonious with you. That can happen during this time. Any type of harmony can grow. All right. So like the harmony of like the types of materials you wear, the harmony of the types of people you're around, the harmony of also like how you kind of idle, how you think, and like what you're actually like putting yourself towards. So you'd be surprised at how much that gets off with people lately. Like they have these ideas, like these ego ideas about who they are, and then like the actual person inside is not that. So it creates this like disharmony. So I like to call it almost like an idling disharmony. This can actually relieve that this full moon. If you want to work a little bit on, okay, what does my body actually want? Who am I? Where do I come from? What has worked for those people for so many centuries? How can I connect with that? Great way to work with this moon. For those of us who are not with the, I suppose, good fortune to be in that space, it's harder. You know, this is a moon where you might also see like people in your life who have struggled with any kind of like mental or physical illness. That could relapse with this moon too. So I wanted to prepare you guys on that front too for this full moon in Pisces. It's kind of like, for some people, a relapsing kind of energy, but it doesn't need to be that. But you might keep an eye out for people around you, like what are their habits, what are their tendencies, and is that growing during this transit, or are they moving towards their calling? That's a good way to kind of measure how healthy people are in your life, because we should see through September a major overcoming and a major entry into a very new chapter of life, which for some people is going to mean a break, break up, ending, sabbatical, closures. Time out of the office for some people is going to be a part of the story very soon, because this is the very strong ending energy. Full moon in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. At the same time, we have the Mercury retrograde in Virgo on this axis. We've had Mars in Virgo too. So this Virgo-Pisces axis is so illuminated right now. We're in Sun in Virgo, of course, Virgo season. It means that people are really at odds with their like mundane daily life as compared to like the spiritual journey or the emotional relevant significance of their path. That is trying to balance itself out during this time. So very simply, if you're like working a job that doesn't harmonize with your morals or your spiritual journey, that's going to be hard during this time, and you might see a change there. Also, if you're dating someone, or if you're in a relationship with someone, for example, maybe with like different religious ideas or just different morals, different ethics, or lack thereof, that's going to get harder here. It's going to get harder to betray ourselves, you guys, and we're going to move in, to conclude, we're going to move into this time past this full moon for the next 3 years, where there's like this countdown, or there's this like way in which the more that we self-betray, or the more that we move away from the direction that we feel or know inside, the more we may experience chaos, or the more we also may just be shown, in whichever way, that choice didn't mean the right outcome, okay? Or maybe the desired outcome. So it really starts to kind of shatter some of the illusions that a lot of people in. You know, people get into these illusions like, for example, I'm going to live above my means and save money, right? Illusion. I'm going to treat everybody in my life like crap, but expect to be with a good reputation. Okay, illusion. I'm going to start a relationship with a narcissist and expect to have health in my life. Illusion. And I appreciate this period of time for this, as this is a very stern time, and it will be for the next 3 years. It's a very stern time for these kinds of like illusions. And it shows us really fast. You know, we had an interesting thing with like the 2010s decade, where you had like these poetic or symbolic outcomes, and sort of like situations that would yield results that had kind of unexpected endings, where basically you could have exceptions, where now you cannot. Now things are, we're actually in a more kind of geometric quantum now, and that quantum is simpler to work with, but it kind of betrays some of the artistic nature that a lot of us have cultivated over that last decade. And a lot of that artistic stuff is really confined to artistic types of industries or artistic pursuits. Also, what I can say about this full moon in Pisces is revealing of toxic things, okay, whether this is in the body, toxic thinking habits, toxins will get very illuminated and clarified, as the Saturn retrograde in Pisces also was kind of expanding certain toxins. So there's going to be, if there is something like not fresh or unhealthy in your life, it's just going to be so obvious during this full moon. It'll get totally illuminated. So keep your eyes out for that. Also, betrayal, or any kind of betrayal, can be seen from like 10 miles away here. So for the psychic people, there's an increase in psychic ability. And also, don't freak yourself out with chronolinear thinking. What do I mean? Like chronological linear thinking. So this plus this equals that. You're probably right. Being with this kind of person in this context means this. You're probably right. Don't overcomplicate it. And don't try to enforce like romanticized or poetic attributes to situations during this transit, because it's a very kind of like romantic energy that we're in, where people can get a little bit crazy and they can get a little bit like, yes, this long distance relationship and this cubicle office job and living at home with my parents because I can't afford to be out on my own is good enough for me. Okay. That's all that I need. That's all that I deserve. This is like not the way that we need to be thinking. We need to be very with high standards during this time, as high standards as possible. And there are realities. Like, I'm not saying like that previous example is like the worst case scenario. There's certainly worse things to live through, but I do see, you know what I mean? I've seen, this is something that my life on my spiritual journey has subjected me to a lot. It's not been very much in my own personal experience, but I've really had to witness a lot of times in my own life, people who have these kinds of like romanticized views of like really tragic situations. So people who live in very expensive like closets in the city, like $1,500 little closets with no sunlight, and work jobs that are not moral, okay, or not worthy of them. Yet they're still making it okay for themselves, and they're like playing the video games in the $1,500 closet and accepting their lot in life. This is not a time where we can do that, because it will be easy actually to romanticize these things here. Another one is like having such a passion for something, but convincing yourself that it's not safe enough, like monetarily, to pursue the passion. Okay. Cutting ourselves off at the knees. Being okay with situations that aren't worthy of us. And I understand also that this can get kind of like egotistical as well, like this situation is not worthy of me, or this, I'm better than this job or something. But I don't think that those feelings are that bad right now, because if it's wrong, that may need to be known too. I feel like the test of capacity is another important aspect of this time. So like people thinking like, this job is not what I need to do, I need something better. Well, maybe it's important now to actually try that, okay? Or in the coming time, so that you can understand if like the way that you're thinking is kind of like based on merit or based on like illusion. So like we want to kind of like test the merits of certain things, the extent to which things are real or realistic. And also we just want to make sure that we're not romanticizing bad situations. Rather, we're working with our own mind and actions to actually generate better life as much as we can. Finally, there is just a likelihood of mourning or grief for some people. There could be a cycle of bereavement that might conclude with this transit. And I encourage you to not be anchored down or held down by things which have had like a lot of time now. People think differently. The quantums have changed. Things which are not in your life, you don't need to be haunted by ghosts of the past. I could see ghosts of the past being a thing. Saturn in Pisces, full moon in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. Try to disconnect from that and give yourself the experience of your own time here. As something is kind of like truly trying to pass and truly trying to work itself out so that we can do the stuff that matters and conceptualize the things that matter truly in our lives now. So anyway, everyone, I'm going to conclude there. Check out the description box below. All 12 readings for September are available on Patreon. Ad-free, very seamless. It's a great value. Check that out. And yes, I hope you enjoyed this late night stream of consciousness about the August 30th full moon in Pisces. Enjoy this transit. Bye.